This is R1 and 3 Autoethnography with your host, Stephen. Today I'm going to interview Mark Hammer, and we're going to speak about his experience with substance misuse. On this podcast, we talk about our lived experiences with mental illness. So before we get started, you got to know that we are not medical professionals, and you should see your doctor if you're concerned about your mental well-being.
Perfect. My name is Mark. I work with Pure Health. I've been involved at the university I've been in the university for about 2 or 3 years. I'm a person with lived experience. I have substance use disorder that I'm living well with. And my particular substance was alcohol, but I dabbled with just about everything. I'm not your traditional student. I'm over 50 years old. I started my degree in 1984 and, if all the cards align, I should be graduated by spring. But I'm looking at potentially going on and doing a master's degree in sociology as well. And that's my major is sociology with a minor in psychology and a certificate in criminology and addictions. My passion, because of my lived experiences, is the addiction area, substance use disorders, and living well with them.
Right. So if you don't mind, can we kind of dig into your past experience there, Mark?
Certainly. I grew up, in the 60s and 70s. Alcohol was the big thing then. We didn't have a lot of drugs. I mean, marijuana came in, but we talked about things like Acapulco Gold and Maui Wowie and stuff that was usually imported. So it was very hard to get, and it was a little more expensive than alcohol. So alcohol was my drug of choice. Graduated in 84 and had started drinking before I even graduated. Started university at the University College of the Caribou, which was only called Caribou College, and now it's called Thompson Rivers University, in 1984. And still did a fair amount of drinking and liked to party and didn't like being at school. I didn't flunk out. I did okay. I was in the 70s and between 70 and 75 in all my classes, but I didn't work very hard. And I would rather drink and party than go to school. So I quit school in 85, 86 and went to work. Worked in lots of different places, but the most fun I ever had was when I moved to Banff. I lived in Banff for 2.5, 3 years where I met my current partner. But I worked in a bar for a lot of that and got to drink as much as I wanted, whenever I wanted. Could spend entire weeks, and spent a month drunk once, I think, back then. And that was just socially acceptable. That's what we did. We worked in the bar, we drank, we partied, we did the things. But as I grew older, I didn't grow out of it until I was 30 years old. And I had an episode where I drank way too much and ended up in the hospital. And that's when I met some people on an online group of all places, telling me that I might want to stop and curtail my drinking. I hadn't heard of 12-step programs or any of that type of stuff before. And that's when I wandered into a 12-step program, Alcoholics Anonymous. And a friend had talked to me about it, and it was the place I needed to be. I did the questionnaire for the Mayo Clinic, and it indicated that I had a substance use disorder with alcohol. So long story short, I quit, but it was quite a journey. I've lived in 3 provinces since then: Alberta, British Columbia, and Saskatchewan. Moving to Saskatchewan about almost 19 years ago now. Actually, almost 20 years. My daughter turns 20 in February, and that's when. Or no, she turns 19. So there we go. At night, my daughter turns 19 in February. So I will be in the province 19 years as of this January. And in Alcoholics Anonymous for almost 25 years, over 25 years now. I started when I was 30. Oh, I told everybody my age. I'm an old guy. But it's been quite the journey. I did quit AA, but didn't start drinking for a while. When we first moved to Saskatchewan, I was on weird shifts. I couldn't get into meetings. It's not like now where you can, dial into a meeting on the computer or anything. So I went back about, I can't even remember. I took a couple years off, and I've been back and been very involved with the program, but decided 2 years ago to go back to school. And I'll tell you, school's a lot better when I'm not drinking. I sure remember a lot more. Although at my age, it's a little harder. It's a little different, doing all this studying, and I'm doing a statistics part in one of my classes, and I'm trying to remember math that I learned 35 years ago. It's a little difficult. The journey's been interesting. Recently, I decided to go for my master's, and the reason why is because I met a really cool doctor at the university. There's two, actually. I've worked with Dr. Fornsler and Dr. Dell, Barb Fornsler and Colleen Dell. Amazing professors that give back and showed me the value of research, and helping people with substance use disorders, and getting rid of some of the stigma. I've also been introduced to a group out of Ontario called CAPSA, which is the Community Addictions Peer Support Association. And they do peer support meetings online. You can find it at capsa.ca. You can find meetings all the time. And we've actually migrated a meeting to the University of Saskatchewan as well, for students. The uptake on it hasn't been great yet. We're hoping that, well, in a perfect world, I'm hoping nobody has to show up. But the reality is that, that there's a lot of students out there that need support, and this is a good place for them to get it. The peer support is different than a 12-step meeting. 12-step meetings are peer support, but not all peer support meetings are 12-step. Some of the peer support meetings are just about supporting each other. And that's what the Community Addictions Peer Support Association is about, in all people and all pathways. It's been a great experience for me, and it's made me want to go on and discover more about peer support and more about stigma. The stigma around drug use and alcohol use, and that stigma about people in recovery and trying to get well, and why that is such a big deal, and how we can combat that stigma. It's a big area that we can work on as a group and as a university to support students that go on and end up having trouble with alcohol or drugs.
In general, what do you think the stigma is that surrounds people who use substances?
Well, according to everything that that I'm reading and that I've seen, in my experiences, is when you say you are alcoholic or that you are an addict, there's a certain way that people look down on you. Stigma is that it's a way that it's people looking down on other people for something that they really have no control over. You don't have control over whether you become addicted or you gain a substance use disorder. And so this stigma is what prohibits people from getting help. I have diabetes. I'm type 2 diabetic. There's no stigma with that. I go and I tell my doctor that, and or my doctor tests me for that, and I can tell my friends that, and they're not going to shove sugar in my face. The truth is, if I say the same thing about a substance use disorder, a lot of times people say, "Oh, you can handle that, no problem. Here, just have one beer, you'll be fine." And the truth is, well, that's not the case for me. Some people can do that, some people can't. I am not one of them. And the two things are related: diabetes and substance use disorders. There's nothing I can do about my substance use disorder. The only thing I can do is treat it with, I do peer support and 12-step groups, but I can't take alcohol, and that shouldn't have people think negative about me. I'm a 85% student. I'm, getting a degree in sociology, going on for a master's probably, working in the field. I've got a family, a house, cars, student loan, like all the things that, indicate that I'm going to be successful or that I am successful. And yet people would look down on me for a substance use disorder. And the truth is, there's no reason for that.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like you've gone through quite the journey to get to the point where you are. I wanted to ask, what can we do as students or adults to combat some of this stigma? Like, what are some of the tangible actions we can take, some of the words we should avoid? Or
that's a really good one. Words have power. The word addict, the word alcoholic, the word junkie, those are all words that really shouldn't exist. We talk about a person with diabetes. We don't, I mean, we talk about a diabetic, but really we're talking about a person with diabetes. We're talking about a person with substance use disorder. We're not talking about an addict. We're a person with lived experience. We're talking, we want to, avoid those stigmatizing words. Support them, support people, understand it. A lot of the people that are on the street and homeless are there because they have substance use disorders. Rather than looking down your nose at them, figuring out ways to help is a good one. And I'm not saying give them money or anything like that. What I'm saying is understand and be compassionate and have empathy, rather than sympathy. Feeling sorry for someone is way different than, feeling bad about their situation and trying to help change that. Lobbying our government. Our government recently in Saskatchewan gave 165 or 170 million, something like that, to build a remand or add on to remand at the prison, and then denied $1 million to Prairie Harm Reduction in Saskatoon. I mean, $1 million, that's all they asked for, compared to the 165 million that they wanted to use for the remand center. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, the studies that we're seeing, and we're seeing a lot of studies out of places like Portugal, and even in Vancouver at the Insight, which is the first North American safe injection site, was in Vancouver. Even there, you're seeing a lessening of drug problems around, lessening of overdoses, lessening of instances of AIDS. Saskatchewan has one of the highest rates of AIDS in the country, in Canada. And yet and how is that transmitted? It's not sexually, not 100%. The main transmission of AIDS is coming from needles, is coming from used needles. And so just a needle program in some of these rural areas can help out immensely. And a safe drug site, safe injection, safe consumption site. I mean, the work that Prairie Harm Reduction does, if you haven't checked it out, you need to. That is an amazing facility with amazing people working for it. I believe their executive, I'm trying to remember his name, and I can't right now off the top of my head, but there's some amazing people doing work in Saskatoon, both street nurses and with Prairie Harm Reduction. And there's a fairly new site, and I don't know what it is in Regina. I'm not up on Regina very much, but I mean, I could see us, needing that support up in Prince Albert as well. That's how we can do it. We can lobby our government and tell them to stop worrying about criminalizing drug users and treat it like it's the health issue it is, because this is not a criminal issue. This is a health issue.
Yeah, exactly. Because you look at like some of the reasons why some people might be using substances. I know that before we talked, you talked a little bit about Gabor Mate, like trauma, right? The environment that someone has to grow up in, some of their circumstances outside of their control. Would you mind if we explored that a little further in your lived experience?
Yeah, Gabor Mate. Gabor Mate was involved in Vancouver with Insight, and before then with the Canadian Association of Drug Users. He's an amazing man, and talks a lot about trauma. And in his opinion, trauma is what causes is at the root of all addiction. He says, rather than asking why the addiction, ask what the trauma. My own personal, without going into it too much, I can really see that is the trauma, not from a bad childhood or bad time growing up. There was some early stuff that happened that my parents had no control over. And, did that affect me? Well, I became addicted to alcohol. I needed it. And I used it to become something that I wasn't, and make up for things that I didn't do. It covered the pain. It made me more sociable, until it didn't. That was the thing with me is my journey started with it was good. I mean, alcohol did all the things for me that I needed it to do. It made me handsome for the women, made me glib, and I could talk, and it took away my inhibitions. I could do anything I wanted to, and yet after a time, I needed more and more to obtain the same effect. And honestly, it just stopped doing it at a certain point. My final drunk was ugly. I woke up in a hospital bed with a blood alcohol content of way too much, and they couldn't revive me at first. They were really scared that they were going to lose me on the table. I'm a big dude too. I was weighing in at about 260, 270 pounds. So it took a few of them to get me into the ambulance, and it was pretty scary. And really wasn't treated very nice. And I didn't deserve it. I'd used up quite a bit of resources for my craziness, but looking back on it now, I think if I would have been looked at with a little bit more compassion, it might have been different. I might have had an easier time early.
Mark, what do you mean you weren't treated very nicely?
When I woke up in the hospital, I was naked to the waist. I was wearing a pair of shorts, and that was it. No blanket, strapped to the table, not just strapped with my hips to the table, and nothing around me. It was insane. I woke up in bright lights and craziness. So it was, and the nurse was very terse and curt, and I get that. I mean, they probably deal with a lot of people that come in drunk and disorderly and cause problems. So, I mean, I get that, but I think a little bit of compassion would have gone a long way at that point. I was at a pretty low point. It was a pretty crazy point in my life.
Yeah, for sure. What was your perspective on alcohol like when you had just started drinking?
See, alcohol was always involved in my family. We'd seen it. My parents both drank, not to excess, nothing like I did, but it was always around. And I mean, again, I grew up in the '80s, right? I mean, alcohol was everywhere. I think they sponsored, a lot of things, and there was commercials on TV, and everybody was expected to drink. Kind of like university now. I mean, you go to university. What's the first thing that you talk about is Louis' pub, right? Let's go out on Friday night. We'll go to Louis and we'll loosen up and, blow off the steam from, midterms or the papers or finals or whatever else. I mean, alcohol is very prevalent in our society. It's accepted, which, I mean, hindsight being 2020 and me being a non-drinker now, I kind of go, why is that? And you wonder if you're biased a little bit. And, I mean, am I? I don't know. I do know that alcohol, if you go to an emergency ward on a Friday night, that a lot of what they're dealing with is alcohol related, whether that's a domestic dispute, a car accident, somebody poisoned, there's all sorts of stuff, but there's a lot of it caused by alcohol, and alcohol might have made me feel good, but it's still a depressant. And that, there's a lot of problems with people with concurrent disorders, mental illness, depression, anxiety, and things that drink and make things worse. So it's alcohol is an incredible drug that's legal and does a lot of things for a lot of people and then doesn't for others. So it's something we do, and I know I can't partake, but that doesn't mean I think it should be outlawed or prohibition or anything. I just think that people should be careful. There are the safe drinking guidelines, and I mean, you'd have to look them up. I don't have them at my fingertips right now, but it's if you shouldn't be drinking more than a certain amount, and if you stack up your usage against that, then you may want to think about cutting it down a little bit, or end up like me, which I guess I'm not that bad.
Yeah, for sure. So it sounds like your whole life you grew around alcohol because you said like in the '80s it was in advertisements and it was just normalized. So, and you worked in a bar. So would you say like it was just a big part of your identity?
It was my identity. I was a bouncer and a waiter in the bar in Banff, and I mean, we always drank. I mean, and if we drank to, that we got sick on one, we just changed types of drinks. So, I mean, if you didn't feel good, you've got a hangover from vodka and orange, you would drink rum the next day, and everybody knew what you were drinking because everybody knew you, and, you'd get drinks bought for you at the bar. A lot of times we tried to stay, we didn't try and get drunk until after the shift was over. But I mean, we would have a fair number of beverages during the day. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you build up a resistance to it too, right?
So, Mark, what happened to your identity once you decided to stop drinking?
Oh, that's a good one. Everything changed. Um, when I stopped drinking, I had to rethink a lot of things in my life. Um, because I had gone to the point where I couldn't have one, I needed to make sure that I wasn't putting myself in those situations again. Fortunately, I mean, I was married with a child. My son was one. Um, and it didn't make that much of a difference, but it made all the difference. I mean, going to 12-step meetings and associating with people who did not drink made it uncomfortable for some of my friends. And that's another thing that we can do as populace, as people without that alcohol problem, is be a little more understanding of people that might have those issues. If you throw a party, make sure that there's a non-alcoholic option. Make sure that the people you're watching what people are putting, and helping them out, and making sure that nobody spikes drinks. There's lots of different things that way, and my identity, I like it better now, but it was quite a change. I did lose some friends. They weren't real friends, and I gained some others. So nothing changed, but everything changed. There you go. I was still the same me, but I had to do a lot of work. And I had done a lot of damage, right? I mean, to my family, to my wife. I had, used money to drink when I should have been using it for other things, and hadn't been home, hadn't been present. It was not a very prideful time, but by dealing with it and apologizing for it and moving past it, it changed who I am, and it gave me a better idea of what I wanted to do. For the last 2 years, I've been allowed to work in the addictions field, doing research and learning about substance use disorders, and it's been incredible. Before that, I worked for major companies, and made people money, but never really helped anybody out. Now I get to help people out by just sharing my lived experience and my book learning. So it's pretty cool. It was a hard lesson, and I don't recommend it for anybody. Um, but if you have to go through it, there's lots of support.
Yeah, for sure. Mark, I want to come back to this point, but there was one comment that you made in there that really stuck with me. I do want to keep talking about where we're going right now, but when you were speaking about parties and we're discussing non-alcoholic options, I wanted to say, like, isn't it funny that it's more strange to say that you're not drinking than you are drinking when you're at a social gathering? Like you get weird looks or just like, why not? Because I can't or I don't want to. Well, I'll just have one. Why not? Because I don't want to, you know?
Yeah, that's a really good point, Stephen. Normalizing not drinking. We really do need to do that. It should be a choice. It's like passing someone a marijuana cigarette, and here you go, have a toke. No thanks, I'm good. That should be enough, even with alcohol. But the thing is, it's a society thing. I mean, you look at some of the big professions, lawyers and businessmen and salesmen. A lot of their sales are made over lunches with expense accounts with alcohol. you know it's it it's work that we need to do. Normalize not drinking. And I mean, I sometimes get a little glib if I'm at a party and somebody asks me if I want to drink. I say no thank you, and they say, well, why not? And I'm like, well, I'm allergic to alcohol. I break out in handcuffs. So that was a joke. You're supposed to laugh. um but it's
Sorry, I had my mic muted so I didn't
That's
disturb you.
okay. It's a wild thing that you can't just say no thank you.
Yeah, I,
you know
I I did want to revisit the identity piece, but now I want to ask you, like, when you were sobering up, what do you say when someone approaches you and asks you to drink, but they're persistent about it? What do you do in that situation, Mark?
it depends on the person. I got fairly aggressive. And I was very, by this time I was really honest with what was going on. It's like, no, you don't get it. I have a problem. I can't drink. And most people back off, but it's all in who you surround yourself with, right? I was surrounding myself with like-minded people, and my family knew. Now if anybody hands me a drink, I'd be out at a party and someone hands me a drink. I've got 3 or 4 friends that are there going, "There's no alcohol in that, right?" Because they all know I don't drink. And the funny part about it is early on, and it's called Alcoholics Anonymous for a reason, and it's because we go into it and we're worried about that stigma. We're worried about being seen, and yet after we've been there for a long time, a lot of people go, "Oh, you finally quit drinking. Good for you." And it's like, "Oh, okay. Well, I guess people noticed." And people do notice those types of things. But supporting someone that's not drinking, and understanding the different words to use, and the different ways to support. I've chosen abstinence is totally no alcohol for me, but others choose the harm reduction model, which is trying to stick to the safe drinking guidelines. If they do get drunk, they try and space it out. There's nothing wrong with that. If you get to a point like I was, where your life wasn't going to go anywhere, then sure, seek help to follow that abstinence path. But sometimes just doing less is better. And especially a student. I mean, you're just coming into university. You've been in high school. Maybe you're away from your parents for the first time, living on your own. You're going to try some of the alcohol. I wish I knew then what I knew now about how much alcohol I should have, and how much was good for me and how much wasn't. I mean, that's part of what we do at Pure Health, is we talk about safe drinking guidelines. January is actually the thinking about my drinking month. So this, if you're listening to this, think about abstaining in January. Just quit in January, and write a journal and how it feels. And how you feel and what you feel about it. And if there's cravings and all those wonderful things, all of those can help you, not get to the point where you're in a substance use disorder territory. It's a hard thing. And we talked about a little bit about stats, but when you're coming to university for the first time, they say, that 46.8% of our population of the university meets the DSM-4 criteria for substance use disorder. And I've got that stat from a paper in Caldera et al. In 2009. If anybody's interested, I can give you the resources. But the funny part is only 88.8% of the people usually seek help. So if we look at the USask website, we've got about 21,000 people at our university. That's 9,800 people with potential substance use issues, and 800 of them, 863 could be seeking help, so that's why we've started the recovery center at the university, and trying to get people to come in and understand safe drinking guidelines. We've got an all persons, all pathways meeting. We have support. You can email in and ask questions about your substance use. So there's lots of room there to work on things. Also, interesting that 27% of the that's interesting. My phone's talking to me. 27% of people in a survey, a Canadian university survey, said from the university, first, second, third, and fourth years, responded that they forgot where they were or what they did after drinking. That's 27%. Like that's a lot of people losing control with alcohol. So there's so much more that we can do as a group and as a university, but just being aware of it as people, and being able to talk to it with each other, and not putting someone in that position. Would you like a drink? No, thank you. I have alcoholic and non-alcoholic. That works. Or okay. Great, good for you. Yeah, it's like asking somebody if they want a hot dog. Not everybody wants a hot dog.
It would be amazing to just hear okay after you say no thanks, eh?
It would. Unfortunately, right now we're still in a position where we have to explain ourselves, and that's tough. I mean, as a person with trying to fight that, there's days I just don't want to talk about it. I could have had a rough day. I could want a drink. 25 years in, sometimes I still, a drink of vodka would be really good right now. And then, of course, the brain kicks in and says, "Hey, wait a second, time out." It's a slippery slope for you. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of things we can do as supporters, and that's the other thing. If you're really interested in talking about this and you're out there and you want to ask more questions, by all means, contact me through the university. Stephen will have my email as well, and the email for the university. It's usaskrecovery@gmail.com, and that goes directly to a very confidential. It's the Gmail for a reason. It's confidential with me, and so I can answer your questions or even direct you to a meeting if you desire to go. Yeah, so there's lots of stuff we're trying to do at the university. There's a collegiate recovery community started for Canada. There is one in the United States. Is about 100 and I want to say 160, but it might be a little lower than that. Universities involved and colleges involved in the United States. And there's 8 to 10 started up here in Canada now, and it's brand new. The University of British Columbia has a recovery community. It started 3 or 4 years ago. U of Calgary has just started this year. Edmonton is starting. So that's University of Alberta. Of course, the University of Saskatchewan, plus Carleton, Windsor. Windsor has a very big recovery program, and there's a lot of stuff going into helping out and making it a strong group. Monthly meetings between heads of all these different groups and trying to get things going.
So, Mark, it definitely sounds like you're really knowledgeable, which is awesome. But when you were starting to go to some of these programs, what were you feeling and how did you work through that? Like, if there's a student that's listening to this and they're kind of, debating, I know that it could be challenging, but what did you do and how did you get through it?
I think the biggest thing that helped me was I found somebody early that was smarter than me, that I believe that knew more and had the lived experience. I met a guy in Washington State, and we talked online through email about addiction, about substance uses and things like that. And he had a story that was very similar to mine. Except he'd gone and he'd lost everything. His family wouldn't talk to him anymore. He, lived on the street. He'd gone to the very depths of his disease. And I saw that and I didn't want to go there. So I went and I sought out people that had more knowledge than me. I sought out people that had lived what I was living and could tell me ways to not go, like there's a saying, you don't have to ride the dump truck all the way to the dump. You can get off before you get there. And that's what I wanted to do, was get off that dump truck, get off that treadmill that was taking me to a really bad place. And so I talked to people, and I believed in the recovery of the rooms of the 12-step rooms, and it was more than the 12 steps and more than the spirituality they talk about in AA. It was the groups, it was the people, and that's what helped me the most, is talking to people that were knowledgeable, and that felt the best.
So how would you start some of these conversations, either with yourself or with someone that you love and care about?
So if I saw somebody in distress, I might put the bug in their ear that, I've been through this. If you want to talk, I'm here. If I was talking to somebody else, that if I didn't have the experience I did, I would be recommending them to talk to someone like me or like a counselor. The Student Wellness Center is amazing, by the way. The Student Wellness Center at the university, I work with a few people there, and Evan has been really, really good with me. If you wanted to talk to a counselor, you could definitely talk to somebody at the Student Wellness. Plus, the what is it called? Canadian Addiction Mental Health Association, CAMH, CAMH, Center for Addiction and Mental Health. That's it. CAMH is very knowledgeable about these things as well, and can steer you in some right directions. But the biggest thing is hold out your hand and ask for help. There's learning that I didn't have to do this by myself was a big deal. It was a really big deal. And that's what helped me the most, is understanding that I didn't have to go it alone. I didn't have to be an island, that getting help was actually okay. And that's part of the stigma too, is we want to do it ourselves and nobody else knows. But it's for most people, it's not possible. I have known people to quit, be abstinent without program work or without other help. And, I've known people to do that and be pretty miserable. There is a better way to do it, and there is a safe way to do it. And, there's lots of different supports in the city, out of the city. Personally, I've helped people get into detox. There's certain people that drink so much that if they stop, it's dangerous. So if you're to that point where you're drinking that much and you can't just go cold turkey, we need to help you with some, they call it detoxification, but it's just a safe place to be to look after yourself. So, there's that as well. Reach out for help. If you think that you might have an issue, talk to somebody about it, somebody that you trust. If you think a friend might have an issue, ask them if they need help. Sometimes they're going to be grouchy about it. The worst case scenario is they'll be mad at you for a little bit. The worst case scenario, if you don't talk to them, is they could die. This stuff is serious. And not necessarily just from the substance use, but from all the other things, making poor choices. That's the best thing. The best thing you can do as an ally is to seek more allies, get more friends. If you don't understand something, get educated. And there's lots of places for that. Peer Health has lots of things that they offer: mental health first aid, suicide awareness. There's all sorts of things that they can teach you to talk to your friends. And, and if you're in that position right now and you're listening to this and you're suffering, there's a way out. You can contact myself. You can contact the Student Wellness Center. You can talk to your doctor. The doctors are very, very, very well versed, most of them in substance use disorders and how to treat them. And then the Center for Addiction and Mental Health and the Canadian Mental Health Association. There's all sorts of places you can go. Come to a CAPSA meeting and I can teach you there too.
Yeah, Mark, I love how you're speaking with so much compassion, empathy when you're speaking about these experiences. I wanted to ask more about, I don't know, kind of accepting in yourself, admitting that you may have a problem with your drinking. How do you come to terms with that?
Yeah, that's a good one. And you're driving me back to when I first started quitting drinking, and really, it's an everyday thing. Acceptance of yourself. Again, we're not islands. We're not perfect. We don't have to be. We have to be human. We have to live. And the substance use issue, or even mental health, it's just accepting it. They talk about people that are the happiest, and they're the people that just accept things and they're grateful. My substance use disorder has helped me. It sounds stupid to say, but it's helped me. It's helped me learn compassion. It's helped me learn humility. It's helped me connect with a group of people that are just like me. Help me be more human. And doing what I'm doing on campus and with with my chosen career, none of this would have been possible if I hadn't had a substance use issue. I just wouldn't have the wiring. My brain just wouldn't be wired right. And we There's something we always talk about in the rooms. People with substance use disorders are actually very intelligent people. They're not dumb. Things happen with their brains because of the substances, but most of them are very intelligent. They understand how to make money. They understand how to hide from the law, and they understand how to, who's safe and who's not, and that's, once they find an outlet other than the substances, there's amazing things that they can do. If you're out there listening, there's, the tip of the iceberg is what you're seeing. There's a lot underneath there that you can do. And if you just clear up that one issue, either by, controlling it or abstinence, there's so much more that's there for you. There was for me. And I've worked with a number of people with substance use disorders, and anybody that stays not necessarily abstinent, but stays mindful of what they're doing, has a better life. I have worked with people who have gone back to drinking and drink fairly controlled and lived good lives. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about: living a good life, being well. It's about wellness. This stigma of substance use and all this, it's not easy to overcome, but it's simple. Just walk through it. Just walk through the door. That's all I had to do, was walk through the door. And there were many, many people ready to help me. And there's, as students, we're in a little bit different situation. We have all this support. People living on the street and all that don't have as much support. And that's what we can build, is we can build that infrastructure. We can build those supports. And by being more compassionate ourselves. Again, substance use disorders are not a choice. We don't choose this. Nobody I know would choose this. Trauma chooses this for us. There's no doubt in my mind. If you want to read a really good book about substance use disorders and to understand them, Gabor Mate, it's called In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts, and he explains it better than I ever could. He said what was in my heart. He's got a lot more experience with it than I do. His stories of dealing with people with use disorders in downtown Vancouver, and how several generations of trauma, several generations of substance use disorders. It's hard, but going through hard things helps us to be more compassionate and to understand. I wouldn't wish a substance use disorder on my best friend. However, if they had one and they were having problems, it's easier to work with. I've had friends deal with other issues, and I've said to myself, hey, if you had a substance use disorder, this would be a lot easier. I could just give you a 12-step group and we'd be away to the races. And the truth of the matter is it's the peer support, talking to friends, talking to people going through similar things. It's the strength of peer support in the university. There's another plug for the Pure Health, is there's a peer support group with the Pure Health that you can talk to. I believe it's 10 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock or something in the afternoon. You can email in and talk to a real live person, about anything. If you're not feeling well or you're feeling great, we're out there. We're here to support.
Yeah, Mark, thank you. That got like really emotional. I almost started crying. I wanted to ask you, like, do you regret some of your experiences, or have you kind of come to accept them now?
Oh, wow. Yeah, you're asking some hard ones today. Regret. There's stuff you regret in life always. Again, I'm 55. If I didn't have some regrets, but every single challenge has led me to where I am today. Would I like to have done it differently? I think we talked a little bit about this before, but I regret some of the things I put my family through. I put my wife through. I put my children through. I don't regret where I am now. I think you fight regret with gratitude. you know I regret, you feel something, you're bad about something, but I'm grateful that I lived through it. I'm grateful that I'm doing the things I'm doing now. I'm grateful that I have a way out. I'm grateful that I have great friends, and that I can be a voice for others. I think gratitude is medicine for everything that's gone wrong with us. I can't change yesterday. I can't change what happened. And you know what? There's probably very much I can't do about tomorrow. What I can do is be in today and be grateful for where I am today. And the better today generally means a better tomorrow. I had an old sponsor when I first started in the program. I was always concerned that I wanted to be guaranteed that I could stay sober. And in real life, there's no guarantees, right? But he said, well, I'm going to give you a guarantee. He said, I'll give you a guarantee. And he was like, God, he must have been 90. He's probably only 75 or 80, but I was only 30 at the time, so he might as well have been 90. But he said to me, he said, Mark, if you do the things you did today, tomorrow, you'll get the same results as you did today. And if you're happy with your results today, there's your guarantee for tomorrow. Do the same things you did today, tomorrow, you're guaranteed to have the same results. They say that insanity is the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Well, the stability and guarantee, do the same things over and over, you'll get the same results. If you do good things over and over and you work on yourself over and over, you'll get good results. It's funny, one of the, and I'm trying to remember when I heard it, but it was on CBC. It was a guy talking about happiness. And he said, the happiest people are grateful. They practice mindfulness. They're in the moment, and they give back. They volunteer. They give back to people. They spend time working with people. And those are the happiest people. I've seen people with substance use disorders that are having active issues still, that are happy. And they're happy because they're doing that. They're mindful, they're grateful where they are, and they're helping, they're doing stuff. And, the best way to live a good life is to live a good life. That's that simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. Just do it. Practice gratitude, practice mindfulness, and give back. Like you're doing with this podcast. It's a really good thing that you do. Like I try and do through the program work and through other work that I do. But I'm happy. So while, do I have regrets? Yeah, but I can't really dwell on them. Dwelling on them doesn't do anything for me. I accept them, I move on, but I've learned from them. It's that old adage, if you make a mistake once and you move on and don't do it again, it's just a mistake. If you could do it over and over again, it's a habit. And you can't, those habits are what forms and hurts us. Form good habits, do good things. And when you do, have something that you regret, celebrate that you're not doing it anymore, and don't. There are people I've hurt, living in Banff, drinking, one night stands, all the crazy stuff. There's people I've hurt. And I regret that. But dwelling on that regret isn't going to help me. Being a better person and making, what we call it in the 12 steps is the living amends. Live better, be nicer, be kinder. It's the best way to go. And I have the benefit of being 55 years old and many, 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 many years of experience. But you have the benefit of wisdom of learning from somebody else's experiences. Anybody listening to this has the benefit of experiencing or learning from these experiences. And just because I did it doesn't mean you have to do it. I guarantee you it's not a pleasant place to be. I guarantee you it's not easy. So if you can take a different path, you should. That's when we talk in when I talk in the peer support group, all people, all pathways. We talk about pathways and neural pathways. You do the same thing over and over. You develop this deep tread, this highway, this super highway. If you want to change that pathway, you have to physically go a different direction. When you do that, it's like cutting a little goat path. You're cutting down a couple of trees and making this little path for yourself to go. But you keep going down that path, you're going to wear it down. You're going to turn it into a superhighway. And that's how you change your habits, is one at a time and slowly and with intention. And quitting drinking for me was that. I needed to change that path, that superhighway. And now it's only a goat path. The superhighway is the part of me that doesn't drink. That's the easier, softer way, but that doesn't mean that other pathway goes away, because it never does. But the things you do make your way better. And regrets, you just going back on the past and feeling the past. It's like resentment. Regret and resentment go hand in hand. I'm mad at my mom because she did whatever. That's not going to serve you anything. Resentment means to refeel. I don't want to feel that again. By letting stuff like that go. And I get there's huge things that people hold on to, and they need, there's some professional help, but there's a lot of things I had to let go of. Regret and resentment were two of them. And being in the moment. And when you screw up, it's okay to say, you know what? I screwed that up. I'm sorry. I used the wrong word. I hurt you. I did something. I'm sorry. That goes a long way too. And it builds a lot less regret. Regrets, there are people I could never say sorry to. I will never see them again. So that's what that can build up. But yeah, I can ramble on. I'm sorry, Stephen.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to say, it sounds like a lot of what I'm getting is we're kind of trying to meet people where they're at, not focusing too far in the future or focusing too far in the past, right?
That's correct. Yeah, that's dead on. You got it. That's all there is where we're at.
So if I guess I think this is a good time to end it, but I want to ask, like, if there was a student that's, at that point, like this is their day, what would you want to say to them, Mark?
It's going to be okay. There's people that care. It's going to be okay. Reach out, get some help. It's going to be okay. And you know what? It's going to be better than okay. The first steps are always the hardest. But if I can look and I use my life as an example, I can say, I didn't think I'd be alive here, Stephen. I thought I'd be dead. The way I drank in the bars in Banff, I thought I'd be dead by now. I'm 55 years old. I thought I'd be dead. But I've been given all these gifts, and I don't know. Like, I'm not a big God guy. It's not my thing. But they say that God protects fools and drunks, and I was both, and He protected me. The Creator, whatever you want to call it, nature, whatever. For some reason, I'm still here. And no matter what you're going through, no matter what, stick it out. There's better times. And there are so many people at the university, at, in with any of the 12-step groups, myself, there's so many people that want to help. And if you want to reach your hand out, there's lots of help for you. If it's not me, it's, there's several, 12-step groups. There's several peer support groups. And the support we have at the university is absolutely amazing. The Student Wellness Center, and, but if you just want to talk to somebody, talk to me. I'm a great first start. And if you're not comfortable talking to me, go into prairie harm reduction. Go into prairie harm reduction. If that's, ask your doctor. There's so many places to ask for help. These podcasts, there's lots of that going on. There's so many places to go, and life will get better. It will, I guarantee you. And if that, it gets better because you work on it to get better. and the resources are here.
Yeah, that was really good. I mean, if you can't tell, that I'm a little emotional. That was some of the things that I would want to hear too. So, yeah, I guess thank you so much for sharing your story, Mark. I hope whoever's listening can learn something from this. Is there anything else you'd like to say before I stop recording?
I just want to say thank you. I think what you're doing is incredibly valuable. The new way of communicating, and I think we're on the edge. I think we're on the cusp of new things. I'm gonna pull out my old guy card. I'm gonna say, you young whippersnappers, I don't want you off my lawn. I think you're doing great things. I see it in the university. I see it around. If our generation is in the hands of Generation Z, I think that's what they call you, is Generation Z or Z. I'm okay with that, because what I see from you is a different level of compassion. I see a different level of drive, and I think when you understand what you need to understand, and when you get that direction, I think you'll move mountains. Everything I've seen from the people, the younger people I've worked with in peer health is that we're in good shape. We have people coming up that do care and do get, do understand. I wish my generation and my dad's generation had done a little bit better stewardship for you. But it's in your guys' hands, and I'll try my best to help as long as I'm with you guys. But I'm not a boomer. I'm not a boomer. I want to just say that. Not there yet. No offense to any boomers watching or listening, but yeah, it's the world is in good shape if we have leaders like you, Stephen. So please keep it up. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for those kind words, Mark. I'm glad you're brave enough to share your story, and like you were saying, I'm glad that you worked through it and you're here doing all the work you're doing now. So, in closing, if you want to, how can people get in contact with you, Mark?
The best way is usaskrecovery at gmail.com. And I'm just going to check that, make sure I got it right.
All right.
Because, yeah, it's usaskrecovery, USASK recovery at gmail.com. Or you can get in touch with us through the Peer Health website. If you can also get help through the Student Wellness Center, and you can just type in Student Wellness Center when you're looking through information at the university. Worst case scenario, they can get a hold of you, and you can get a hold of me. There's always a way to get a hold of us. Just reach out. And if you're somebody that's not dealing directly with their own problem, but helping somebody else, feel free to reach out for support as well. Again, if somebody hadn't helped me, I would be in serious trouble right now. So thank you.
All right. Thanks, Mark. I'm going to stop recording now.
Okay.
So hopefully you guys liked this episode. Make sure to check out our website in the description and subscribe on whatever platform you're on. You'll also find some resources and references we used for this episode in the description. And once again, we are not medical professionals, and you should see your doctor if you're concerned about your mental well-being. We'll see you next time.